Welcome back to Golden Goal. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. College football getting down to the nitty-gritty. We got this weekend. We've got rivalry weekend over Thanksgiving. And then we get to the real stuff, conference champions, the playoffs, round and round we go. So for more on that and one of the most important teams left in the mix right now, let's welcome in our next guest, Spencer McLaughlin. He is the host of not one but two podcasts, Locked On College Football and Locked On Ducks. He's also the play-by-play voice for the Southern Utah Thunderbirds. And he's kind enough to join us now. And Spencer, I just want to say, I feel like right now in the college football playoff discussion, Notre Dame has taken a lot of the shrapnel in this conversation away from an Oregon team that would probably otherwise be front and center for a certain group of people. So as we sit here right now, why do you believe Oregon is ranked as high as they are without what a lot of people would point to as a banner win on the season so far?
Well, first, I think I'm a little more entrenched in the Oregon Twitter space than you guys, because I can assure you those discussions happen among some folks out there. And I understand the Notre Dame discussion coming up a lot because they're head-to-head with Miami, just apparently not meaning as much for the Hurricanes right now. I'm in Miami's camp on that one. But, I think for Oregon, this is a really important game. And the more time has gone on and the more the discussions have been laid out and where Oregon's fallen with the rankings and how many teams could wind up at 10-2, the more I think this is a must-win game against USC. I don't think their playoff hopes are completely done if they lose this game, but the pileup of squads that could wind up at 10-2 after the next couple of weeks, it is just so extensive. And we've had these potential chaos scenarios before, and they've had a tendency to work themselves out. I think there are too many teams in the fold this year for it to be easy. I don't envy what the committee is going to have to do one day, because they're going to make at least one, maybe more fan bases very, very upset later this year.
So let's put it to the USC side. If USC were to win, they're sitting at 15. How much, and this late in the season, head-to-head would have to count over Oregon at that point. They would, I'm sure, flip spots. How high do you think USC would go, and how low would Oregon go?
I think the Ducks would stay inside the top 15 or 17. I think USC would have to go into the top 10. If you go on the road and beat a team that is ranked number 7, I don't see how you can be any lower than 10. And certainly if you want to make the record argument and hold the Illinois loss against USC more than the Notre Dame loss, I think that's fine if you're the committee. But if USC wins this game, yeah, they'd have to get in over Oregon. And I think you could put their resume at that point up against a lot of other teams that are pushing to be into the college football playoff at the end of the year. You look at what winning at Oregon has done for Indiana, and they're sitting number 2 in the country. They're not going to go anywhere because they'll be 12-0 by the time the regular season curtain comes down. So I think that USC could get that same benefit. This is the biggest game since the Pac-12 championship for USC under Lincoln Riley. If they won that game, they would have been in the playoff. If they win this game and then win next week against UCLA, I believe they will be in the college football playoff for the first time since he got to Los Angeles.
No doubt, massive implications for them on that side. For Oregon on the other side, the committee this week, Hunter Yurchik, the chairman, said that they were still getting credit for that Penn State win despite what's happened since. Plenty of people pointed out there's been some inconsistencies, particularly in ACC land, with the way they view that. Do you agree with that logic from the committee that win should still mean something for the Ducks?
Inconsistencies in college football? What are you talking about? That's never popped up. I've never seen it before. That'd be the first I've ever heard of it. That is certainly just wild. What a concept. So the Penn State game is tricky because the Penn State squad we're seeing on a week-to-week basis for quite a while now doesn't have their future NFL quarterback, whatever you think of Drew Aller. He got hurt after the Oregon game. And there are those, myself included, that put the game more in the camp of Oregon broke Penn State mentally, because I believe that they did. And I don't think if Penn State had won that game, which they were within one play of doing, that they'd have any chance to lose to UCLA and Northwestern in the coming weeks. You do have to look at how the season has played out, but the injury at quarterback has to matter too. And I think Indiana, who's number 2 in the country, going to Penn State and needing that incredible drive with that unbelievable catch from Omar Cooper to win, shows that the potential for Penn State was always there, and the coaching just wasn't. And James Franklin is, of course, now headed to Blacksburg. And I think it'd be hilarious if he just started coaching this week against Miami, but I don't think that's particularly likely. So I think that conversation is tough. And the general narrative for Oregon as well, they don't have a win over a current ranked team. They have wins over teams that would be ranked, Penn State and Iowa a couple of weeks ago, if they hadn't lost to Oregon. And so I think that it's fair to point out, oh, it's not the toughest resume that Oregon has had to go through. That's absolutely true. Do they deserve to be ranked where they are? Yes. If they win their next 2 games, they should host a college football playoff game at Autzen Stadium, which would be quite a sight to see.
All right, let's talk about an individual player, Dante Moore. In mock drafts, he's basically the second quarterback behind Fernando Mendoza. What are the thoughts, though, of him not going in the draft? Seeing the last few quarterbacks that have gone to the NFL with just in the teens of starts in college not be successful. Do you think there's any way he comes back to Oregon?
Yeah, I think there absolutely is. And this is where the NIL conversation comes into play, I think, in a positive for college sports. A couple of years ago in the Pac-12, RIP, there was a string of quarterbacks that could have gone to the NFL draft but decided to return. You had Bo Nix at Oregon. You had Michael Penix at Washington. You had Cam Ward, who would, of course, go on to play another year with the Cougs and then at Miami. Back in the day, this would have been a conversation of, well, you can't really get any money, maybe a little on the side, kind of, is it legal, is it not? Well, now if you're going to be the quarterback at Oregon, you can make several $1 million. And yeah, you're still going to make more in your NFL career. But your upside, I think, is limited if you go out early because you cannot be fully ready for the league. And I don't think Dante Moore is quite ready for the NFL, and he would benefit greatly coming back to Oregon for a final season. You look at what that did for Marcus Mariota. You look at what that did for Justin Herbert. Those guys were better off and were drafted higher because they came back for an extra season when they didn't have to. And Mariota, of course, took Oregon to the national championship game and won the Heisman Trophy. So Dante Moore's NFL prospects are very real. I don't think he can be Oregon's quarterback in 2027, barring an injury in 2026. I think he's very well suited to come back to the Ducks next year. The team that they will have, the coaching staff, the infrastructure in Eugene, everything is there for him to succeed. And as good as he is, just played his best game as an Oregon quarterback last week on Friday night against Minnesota. He set an Oregon record for completion percentage in a game, going 27-30. I still think there's another level he can get to, but he just has to play more football in order to get to it before he takes on the challenge of the NFL.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, obviously there's a lot of traits there. What's the biggest strength in the win column for him at this point? And what's the biggest area Dante still needs to improve on?
Arm talent is his biggest strength. I think there's a little Matt Stafford to his game. He doesn't have the arm of Matt Stafford because I don't know that anybody really does except for some of the new wave guys like Mahomes and Allen, Justin Herbert and such. But what I see between those two guys that's similar is the number of different arm angles and the variety of throws that can be made. And I think that's what makes him special. He's mobile. He's not a great runner necessarily. It's not what he does most comfortably. He had a moment that probably got him some jabs from his teammates on film where he was keeping it on a read option around the end. And it looked like he might score a touchdown, got bit by the turf monster and then went down. He got the first down, but did not get the touchdown when it looked like he might score on that play. But the arm talent is immense. The variety of throws he can make is really good. Where he can improve is seeing complex defenses like he did against Indiana, where he struggled a whole heck of a lot in that game. And I'm curious to see how USC defensive coordinator Danton Lynn attacks him this week. I also think his deep ball can improve. It's not that it's a weakness. It's just not his strongest area. Sometimes he needs to put a little bit more touch on those throws, a little bit more air, and just be a bit more precise. And there were a couple throws even last week as well as he played that demonstrated that. So a lot of little things, experience, responding to adversity would benefit him, I think, a lot if he comes back for another year. But I mean, the physical tools, as good as you could really hope for at the quarterback spot.
Physical tools on the other side belong to Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver, who's getting a ton of buzz all year long for USC. We saw earlier in the year Notre Dame played him, put their best cornerback on him, even in the slot. What do you view as Oregon's plan of attack for trying to limit one of the most explosive players in the country?
Yeah, this is one of the most interesting matchups that I talked about on my show this week, because Jaden Kennedy is going to be a critically important player for Oregon in this game, because the way that Lincoln Riley uses Mekhi Lemon is varied. He doesn't just put him in one spot and have him run a bunch of routes. He'll send him in motion. He'll use him in gadget plays. He'll line him up in the backfield, behind the offensive line, anything to use him creatively and not just show the defense the same looks. But mostly he's lining up in the slot. I'm interested to see how much man-to-man coverage Oregon wants to play with Jaden Kennedy, who's their nickelback, who's been really, really good this year. Mekhi Lemon is just a really tough guard for anybody. So the number of man coverage calls versus zone coverage calls, I'm fascinated to see how that plays out, because Jacoby Lane on the outside, I think Oregon's pretty good out there, opposite Brandon Finney, who's playing at an All-American level. But that nickel position, I think, is going to be really, really important, because Mekhi Lemon's going to get yards and have receptions in this game. He's just too good. His hands are unbelievably sticky. I swear he's put magnets in the ball and has got the opposite end in his gloves, because he just catches everything that is thrown his way, no matter where the defenders are. But I think that if Oregon is going to slow him down, they've got to be able to limit the explosives. You cannot let him get the 20 and 25-yard plays. Make him work for it. Keep him underneath. If you hold Mekhi Lemon under 100 yards receiving in this game, I think Oregon has a great chance.